Good evening, everyone. I hope all of you can hear me loud and clear. Great. So, how is everyone doing? It's good to be live with you all once again. Great to hear that. Great to hear that. So, first of all, I hope my voice finds everyone in good health. Very nice, friends. So, friends, what I would do today is, before going forward, I would just try to summarize what all we have learned till now, right? Post that, I would start with today's discussion. I hope it's fine with everyone. Great, great. So, just give me a second, guys. Right, friends. So, as part of top-down approach of fundamental analysis, we started with economic analysis. There, firstly, we discussed the concept of economic cycle, and we studied various phases of economic cycle. And then by analyzing certain key performance indicators of the economy like GDP, IIP, PMI, inflation, interest rates, we concluded that currently India is in recessionary phase of the economic cycle, and we somehow or up to some extent confirmed our analysis with Fidelity Research. I hope everyone recalls till here, all of you, right? So, features like falling economic activity, low levels of credit growth, profit declines, revenue declines were observed during recessionary phase, which aligned with the present data. I hope all of you can hear me. Right, friends? So, once we concluded that currently we are in recessionary phase of economic cycle, the next step was, in this phase of economic cycle, which are the sweet spots within the economy, right? Because as per industry analysis, we learned that during various phases of economic cycle also, some sectors would outperform and some sectors would underperform, right? So, to discuss or to understand any sector in detail, we need to go through certain generic factors like demand and supply, competitive scenario within that sector, major costs involved, then regulatory structure and broad financials. So these generic factors we need to look at if we want to understand any sector in detail, right? And if at all there are certain sector specific factors applicable, then we need to review the same, right? So that was about industry analysis. Now, as per industry analysis, as per this framework, we can always figure out which are the sectors to be preferred in various phases of economic cycle. So friends, if we have concluded that currently we are in recessionary phase, which are the sectors to be preferred? Just look at the cycle and tell me. Everyone. Come on, friends. Consumer staples, perfect. Or FMCG, green with double plus, perfect Puniji. Then healthcare, and last but not least, utilities. Right? So, in this phase of economic cycle, these sectors should be given higher preference over others, and with double negative signs, those sectors should be completely avoided. I hope everyone is with me. All of you. I hope everyone is clear here. Shall I move forward? Everyone, please give me a thumbs up. Praveen ji, what I am trying to focus here, that this table gives us that as per various phases of economic cycle, which sectors to be preferred, right? So double plus in green, if we are in recessionary phase, we have to prefer consumer staples or FMCG, healthcare and utilities. Naidu ji, the above graph have already been shared with all of you. Right, Sunita ji, you are absolutely right. What happens? This is broad classification, right? But that does not mean that to the T always we have to completely stick around. But our broad portfolio should be centered around here. Sunita ji, I hope you are getting it, right? There would be certain contra bets which we can always take if there are certain really good tailwinds in place. But our broad portfolio should be centered around these sectors. Sahil ji. Now, Kannan ji, Reliance is a conglomerate, right? It's a company which is spread across oil and gas, rail, and telecom, right? So you can always club it in this. I can club it, say, somewhere between consumer staples, some part of Reliance. And because of that telecom contra, you can count it as a telecom also, right? So whenever you are looking at a conglomerate, right, which are involved into various lines of business, you have to focus which are the major revenue contributors, and accordingly you have to take a view on the same. I hope everyone is clear. Vivek ji, this early pertains to phase of economic cycle, right? So I have classified here. Early is recovery phase, mid is expansion to peak, late is slowdown, recession is depression to recession. Vivek ji, I hope it's clear. Right? So shall I move forward? Sunita ji, all this has been shared and it would be shared again, not to worry. At this point in time, I want all of you to focus on the understanding part, right? So, let us move towards today's agenda. Just give me a second, guys. So, once we have figured out that which are the sectors to be preferred as per recessionary phase of the economic cycle, the next step is within those sectors which are the companies to be preferred over others, right? For that we need to go towards company analysis. So first of all, let us try to understand what is company analysis. So company analysis is all about assessing the health of the company, where it stands currently and where do we expect it to go ahead in the future, right? So it is all about understanding the company on qualitative and quantitative parameters and accordingly trying to assess its intrinsic or fair value, right? Because then only we can have a fundamental view whether it is right to buy the stock at current prices or not. I hope everyone is getting it. what is company analysis all about, right? So let us try to understand why company analysis is important, right? So company analysis is important for identifying fundamentally sound companies, right? So HULs of the world, right? Reliance of the world, where business model is efficient, right? Management is capable, efficient, transparent, right? Where financials are really encouraging going forward, where business prospects are good, right? Those would be called fundamentally sound companies, right? So whenever we are referring to fundamentally sound companies, we are primarily interested in how the future business of the company would evolve, right? So identifying ITCs, HULs, these large cap players, and on similar lines, Maricos of the world, Mindtrees of the world. So across various sectors, companies which are doing well fundamentally, we would be able to identify via company analysis. Then to identify undervalued companies. So who has heard the name of Ben Graham? Come on, friends. Ben Graham. Right? So, who is he? Anyone? Benjamin Graham. Perfect. Perfect. Right. He has written two seminal books. Right? The Intelligent Investor and Security Analysis. Right? He is called the father of value investing. Absolutely, Shri Ramji. Guru of Warren Buffett. Polaji, across next 3 or 4 sessions, we will be discussing the same, right? Which are the qualitative and quantitative parameters we need to look at for identifying fundamentally sound companies, right? So, Rutuja spot on, he was a famous investor. So, what he said, he believed in value investing school of thought. So, in a nutshell, if I have to explain value school of investing, so friends, if you can get, I repeat, silver at the price of steel, is that a better bet, or gold at the price of, say, diamonds? Everyone, I repeat, if you get the opportunity to buy gold at the price of diamonds, or silver at the price of steel, which is a better bet? Everyone, silver, right? So that's where value school of investing subscribes, right? So they believe that even though future potential of the company is not extremely good, but if the current market price is higher than the, sorry, if the current market price is lower than the intrinsic or fair value of the company, then still they would look at buying those businesses. So value investors in India, right, would try to find opportunities, say in PSU companies at present, say in power companies, right, where future prospects not everyone is sanguine about, right? But they are available at throwaway prices, right? So people who believe in value school of investing, they would hunt for opportunities in sector like power, in sector like PSUs. I hope everyone is getting the gist. All of you. Then identifying fast growing companies. Sunita ji, when I say PSU companies, sorry, I refer to whole host of companies where government is majority shareholder, right? Bales of the world, then sales of the world, all the PSU banks, then all these oil marketing companies, right? So whole host of businesses which are primarily owned by government, right? Identifying fast growing companies. So what are fast growing companies? Where revenues and profits are growing at a much higher clip, right? So if you skip COVID-19, companies like D-Mart, TTK Prestige, then Bajaj Finance, these were growing at very fast rate, right? Revenue and profitability growth was not 25-30%, right? So friends, if certain companies are growing at such a good rate and margins and management are well and truly intact, will you get them at cheap prices? Everyone, absolutely not, right? Because good things in life will never be available at cheap prices, right or not, everyone? So that's where fast growing companies or growth school of investing subscribes to, right? So if any one of you is interested in studying growth school of investing in detail, I would advise you all to read one book. The name is Common Stocks and Uncommon Profits. I repeat, Common Stock and Uncommon Profits. Can anyone type it for me, please? The name of the book is Common Stocks and Uncommon Profits. Perfect, Vishalji. By Philip Fisher. He is called the father of Growth School of Investing. Right? So, Growth School of Investing primarily believes that if the present growth in revenues and profits are well and truly high and future prospects are intact, then at present, if you are paying higher prices also, future growth will take care of that. I hope everyone is getting it, what it is, if I am referring to fast growing companies. Everyone? Right? Great. Then to identify efficient companies. So FMCG companies are efficient or not? Right? They are always paid in cash from their buyers of the product, and they always receive lot of credit lines from their suppliers, right? So practically they are doing business on the suppliers' money. I hope everyone is getting it. All these HULs, ICs of the world, right? So any business model where your buyer of the product is paying you in cash or paying you quickly, and from your suppliers you are getting good enough credit line, right? So such businesses would always be chased by investors or not, everyone, right? These businesses would be primarily asset light and debt free or having nominal level of debts, right? That is why you, whenever you would look at FMCG businesses, they would always trade at premium valuations. I hope everyone is following the discussion. Right? Then identifying well managed companies. So friends, if you look at longer time horizon of say previous 2 decades, has TCS outperformed Infosys or not? Everyone, right? So, which company had more changes at the top, TCS or Infosys, in the previous 2 decades? Infosys. Again, Venkatesh, there won't be clear-cut distinctions, right, in all these categories, right? There would be certain degree overlaps, right? What here I am trying to do is just trying to explain to you all the broad concepts, right? Fundamentally, sound companies can always be well managed. They can always be efficient, right? They can always be combination of you. Absolutely, Venkatesh. I hope Venkatesh you are with me. Right. So friends, if there is less churning at the top, won't there be consistency in policies and won't the vision of the companies will fructify more? Right. So always well-managed companies are really visionary management at the top would demand premium. So how many of you know the name of current Britannia CEO? Right, Parikji? I would be listing KPIs also. Anyone? Very perfect, Sriramji. Berry came to the top just few years back. Varun Berry, spot on Patelji, right? And since Varun Berry has been at the top, the prospects of Britannia has changed almost to a great degree, right? So at times, visionary managements also give a leg up to the prospects of the company, right? So well-managed companies which are run by efficient, transparent people would always be praised by investors post Wadia's exit, right? Perfect. Then identifying companies with good financials, spot on, companies which are debt free or companies which are having marginal level of debts, businesses with high profitability margins, they would always be chased by, right? Then to identify company specific risks. So friends, few years back, right, Nestle had an issue with one of its flagship product. Which was the product? Who will tell me? Maggie, spot on, spot on. So, what was the issue? Right? It was found out that lead content was higher as compared to the permissible limit. Right? During that time period, there was big correction in the stock of Nestle. I hope everyone recalls that. Venkateshji, most of the times it would be true, but at times, because certain companies are in certain sectors which are facing headwinds, it won't be always true. Say for example, Tata Steel. Venkateshji, right? Tatas are a good management. Everyone knows about it, right? But at a sectoral level, if the prospects of steel industry is not good, it would be difficult for Tata Steel to outperform. I hope I am making sense. Parekh, I am coming to that. Right. I would address the question. Let us first complete the Maggie part. So the point is, Parekh ji, in any good business, at times certain issues or mishappenings will take place. Always remember, Like our lives, any business will never operate in a vacuum, right? Certain mishappenings, certain wrongdoings in small pockets can always take place, right? Even the best of individuals, at times, certain bad patches or certain wrongdoings do take place, right or not? Parikji and others, right? No one can be perfect. In the same light, no company can be perfect. What we as investors have to look at, that once such a big issue comes up, how efficient the company is in addressing that issue, right? And how quickly they are able to revert back to the original scenario. I hope everyone is getting it. Right? So, Parikji, I hope you are getting my point. Parikji, I hope it's clear. Right. So, friends, the point is whenever in certain companies, certain specific risks, individual company has the ability to overcome this problem, then during those times, it is one of the best opportunities to enter those stocks. Right, Parikji? Once we would discuss individual company examples, we can take up Vedanta example. I hope everyone is getting it, the point about company specific risk, right? So whenever in any company, any individual specific risk comes up, we as investors have to study it and we have to develop a view whether the company is capable and whether the company is taking the right steps to address that issue or not, right? If we have that view, then during those times are the best opportunities to enter those stocks. I hope everyone is getting it. Right. So Sahilji, the oil marketing companies or oil producing companies like ONGC, who is the majority owner of these companies? Sahilji, government. So friends, always remember, in India, governments have a socialist mindset, right? Their main aim is not to generate profit. Their main aim is looking after the interest of the people broadly, and they also have to serve certain political motives, right? So they would always take populist steps, or they would force the management of these PSUs to take populist steps. Secondly, these companies will never be as efficient as compared to their private counterparts. I hope, Sahilji, you have got your answer. Right? So, BL, right, Polaji, you see, in most of the government companies, there would always be big time trading rallies. It will always happen. But you would find very few companies who have had secular growth trends which are owned by government. Sahil, absolutely, if you would see the management turning private, absolutely, then interest of shareholders would be given preference, efficiency of those businesses would always improve. Absolutely. That would change the fortunes. Absolutely, Shuklaji, NTPC is also one of the same. So I hope everyone has got the answer. Company analysis is important. Absolutely, Parekji, right? The business sense in government companies is never aligned with the interest interest of minority shareholders, right? And the employees, right? They would be paid whatever happens, right? So they would never be that much growth oriented and performance oriented, right? Which is in the interest of minority shareholders. I hope everyone is clear. Correctly, right? So once we would discuss company analysis in its totality, you will get the answer, right? This is not the only reason. This is one of the reasons, right? So friends, company analysis is important. I hope everyone agrees on that. Now, the question is how to go about doing company analysis. So, for that, there are two parts. One is qualitative analysis of the company. Second is quantitative analysis of the company. Today, we would be discussing the qualitative aspect. So, friends, under qualitative analysis, first of all, you have to look at three M's. I repeat, under qualitative analysis of any company, first of all, we have to study three M's. What are these three M's? First M stands for business model, right? So, I hope you all recall yesterday Samrat discussed business model of cement. Everyone, right? So friends, likewise, if you want to have a grip on the qualitative potential of any business, first thing is you understand the business model of the company, right? So what are the raw materials involved in that business, how they are procured, right? Then how they are processed and how the finished product is taken to the consumer, right? So if we take up the cement example, we learn by studying the business model that key raw materials are limestone, fly ash, slag, then coal, petcoke. The ownership of these raw materials make a huge impact on the costing for the company. Right or not? Everyone. Right? So the companies which are having captive mines, which are having captive power plants, so they would have a edge or not, right? Because one side of the business model they would always be able to control in a more cost efficient way. I hope I am making sense with respect to input, right? So if a cement company owns captive power plants, if it owns captive mines, it will be having cost efficiency or not? Dasari ji, others, they are in the room. I hope everyone is following. Right? Then, as we studied that in cement, always sales is localized in nature, right? Because longer the cement travels, higher the cost for the consumer becomes, right? So, companies which are located more closer to the demand, they would have a edge or not? Everyone, right? So companies which are using more of rail transport as compared to road transport, they would be having better cost control or not, right? So friends, I want all of you to take my word on this. If you have understood the business model of any company which you are studying, believe me, half the job is done, right? Most of the companies, if you are not comfortable with business model, right, you can stop then and there only, right? Because you would never get the confidence of putting in more effort for studying the company in detail, right? But if you are comfortable with the business model, it would provide you right confidence to move forward. I hope everyone is getting why business model for any company is important. Everyone, right? Then comes second M, which is economic mode. I repeat, economic mode. Second M stands for. So, who will tell me what is economic mode? Anyone? Right, Naiduji, if you look at all the metal companies, right? So I believe in investing in businesses which are having secular growth stories, right? So whenever you will look at metal companies, they would always be having lot of cyclicality in demand, right? So I personally don't prefer that business model, right, which has too much volatility in demand, right? Where the government policies with respect to import tariffs play a bigger part. So wherever government regulation plays a big part, I tend to avoid those businesses. Naidu ji, I hope you are getting it. Right? So friends, who will tell me what is economic mode? Right, Pradeep ji? So all these tin stocks, cigarettes or alcohol companies, right? On these companies, even though there are strong business tailwinds, but the government sword would always be hanging over their heads. Right? So you would see in many states, many a times, alcohol sale is banned. Then arbitrary taxes are imposed now and then again on these set of businesses. So these things happen. Telecom as a sector, if you would say, because of consolidation, currently in telecom there are only three players, right? So with respect to telecom, always remember the need for telecom over the period will increase, right? As as digitization picks up, our usage of data would pick up, then telecom as a product will have more utility, and if there are fewer players, pricing power would kick in more. So as a business model, in my view, in India going forward, telecom has good prospects. Like pharma will always have compliance, absolutely. Ashuji, once we would discuss examples, then we would take up individual companies. Right? Let us first get the conceptual clarity. Right? So please remind me, once we would discuss individual companies, I would take up idea. I hope everyone is following. So let's back to my question. What is economic mode? Absolutely, Shriramji. Huge investments are required for telecom, right? So if there has been consolidation, it is difficult, right? In fact, spectrum has to be purchased from government. So companies who have the spectrum, only they can operate. I hope everyone is getting it. Let's. So no one gave me reply about economic mode. Okay, good try, good try. Perfect, Sahili. Economic mode is all about competitive advantage. Spot on, Vivek ji. So friends, in any industry, the company which you are analyzing, what edge that company holds over its peers, that is that individual company's economic moat or competitive advantage. Right, everyone? So, let us remember a story. So, if you all recall, uh, during earlier times, whenever castles were built, they were surrounded by water. Right or not? Right? Can anyone tell me why? Preeti ji, telecom as a sector, I have said, has huge prospects. That does not mean all the companies would do well. And secondly, if you have attended my first session, I said, even if you are completely bullish on one company, should you put all your eggs in one basket? Preeti ji, never, right? Because something can go wrong always. Absolutely. For protection, they were surrounded by water. So, on similar lines, the companies you are analyzing, what competitive advantage that individual company has over its peers, which will safeguard its business. Right? So, Ashuji, let us take your example of idea. So, what competitive advantage does Idea has over, say, Reliance or Airtel? Ashu Babbaji, can you come up with one or two? Ashu ji, are you there? Right. What I am saying, what competitive advantage Idea has over its peers? Merged company, right? So in telecom, if we say large partner Vodafone, you can say up to certain extent, right? If you say in telecom, competitive advantage is with Reliance. Why? Because that company had deep pockets, right? That is why they were able to offer consumers throwaway prices. Ashuji, I hope you are getting my point. Right? Then only they were able to garner market share. Right? And drive weaker players out of the market. I hope everyone is getting it. Absolutely, Yusufji. Absolutely. In fact, in India, Reliance also has government arbitrage. Right? So, since it's a company which is well connected across various segments of the government, in any business, it would be much easier for Reliance to operate as compared to other players. Arjunji, absolutely in certain periods where your gestation period is higher, right? Where you can wait for profitability for longer time horizons. Absolutely, capital is the competitive advantage, right? Why? Because during that time period, weaker players would be out of the market. Absolutely, Sahilji. I hope Ashuji and others, everyone is following it. Right? So, competitive advantage can be capital. Then, who will tell me competitive advantage of something like WhatsApp? Right? I don't think so. It is very difficult to develop a new chat application. Right? Various companies can do it. What's the competitive advantage of WhatsApp? Entry barrier, Facebook effect. So, if say tomorrow even a new or better chat application comes up, but if all our family members, friends, and office guys are on WhatsApp, what we would do on that other application? Everyone, I hope everyone is getting my point of WhatsApp. Right? First movers advantage and coming up with a product which people liked and stick with it. I hope everyone is following it, right? So if best example GeoChat, right? Even though GeoChat is available, how many of us use GeoChat as compared to WhatsApp, right? Because we are used to WhatsApp and our connections are on WhatsApp. So people don't feel the need to go or to switch to any other chat application. I hope everyone is getting it. Right? Then, for all these IT companies, right? Technological edge can be huge competitive advantage, right? For pharma companies, intellectual property rights can be huge competitive advantage. Absolutely, Ashuji. Spot on, right? Right technology at right time can work wonders, right? So if you all recall, before Google also we used to have search engines. Everyone, right? We used to have Yahoo, right? But since Google came up, it made search such user friendly. Everyone stuck with it. And as more people stuck with Google, the ability of Google to provide better search to individuals improved, right? So now since everyone uses Google, Google has access to more data, so it can improve its search engine in a much more efficient way and it drives other players out of the market, right? So how many of us use Binge by Microsoft? Few and far, right or not? Right? So everyone getting the concept of competitive advantage, right? So the company which you are studying should always have some or the other critical competitive advantage which can't be replicated easily by its peers because then only revenues and profitability would be sustainable over longer periods of time. I hope everyone is getting it. Right? Now, the third M is management. So, friends, what are the qualities to look for in a management? Now, I want replies from all of you. There are around 80 participants. Right? So, people who are running the show at the top. Long standing, absolutely. Innovative, good. Proven track record, ethics, very good, very good. Address the customer needs, far-sighted, visionary, spot on, honest, technically oriented, changing with times. Perfect, perfect. Very good insights from all of you. Now, friends, in my view, first of all, the management should always be from the same line of business, right? That does not mean that people from other field can't do well, right? But generally, if you are investing in an IT company, you would want it to be the right person who has good amount of experience in that field, right? Certain exceptions can always be there, but as a rule, people who have expertise and experience in that field have a better chance of doing well, right? So good knowledge, good learning would be always a add-on. Absolutely, Pradeep, at times exceptions would be there. I am not denying that. Then, second thing, managements which undercommit and over deliver. I repeat, always love managements which undercommit and over deliver. Right? So, always pompous managements would tell the shareholders big dreams, and once those dreams don't fructify, they they would always blame economic or industry wide reasons, right? They would never take the ownership. I hope everyone is getting it, right? So which kind of individuals we like in our day-to-day life? Always people who undercommit and over deliver, right or not? Do we like pompous people? Absolutely not. Right? So whenever you are looking at management, he should be visionary, but he or she should not be pompous. Right? He should not be luring shareholders in big dreams. Right? He should always apprise shareholders of the inherent risk involved. Right? So he or she should always have a much more balanced view. Sahilji, it is difficult, right? But going forward, we will discuss that how we can identify certain red flags. Elon Musk has been a visionary, Vishalji, right? But in my book, he is an exception, right? Because the kind of promises he has made, right? Very few people like him have delivered, right? So, a odd exception will always be there here or there. But that does not mean Elon Musk will succeed in all his ventures. Right? Believe me, he would also fail in various of his dreams. Right? We all should always respect him as an entrepreneur, as an individual person. Right? But once you are investing, always judge individual business prospects. I hope everyone is getting it. Right. So, friends, now managements which are often on television talking good about the company, should we be wary of those managements or should we be loving them? I would repeat, Sunita ji. Right. So the three M's are: first, business model; second, economic moat or competitive advantage; third is management. Vivekji, MDA primarily stands for Management Discussion and Analysis. So, in the annual report of any company, you will find this section, Management Discussion and Analysis part, right? So, in that part, you would find very good insights with respect to qualitative part. Vivek ji, if you are referring to some other full form, please apprise me. Okay, Vivek ji. So for same abbreviations, there can be various full forms, right? So with respect to MDA, the popular full form is Management Discussion and Analysis. You are referring to Mukesh Dhirubhai Ambani as MDA. Okay, great. Right. So Vivek ji, again, there would be two sides of stories, right? One is very optimistic, right? That since you have such global partners on board who have proven their success, right? Facebook, Google, who have shown their technical expertise, right? So one part of the story that dreams that Mukesh Dhirubhai Ambani is promising because he has right partners with them are really believable up to certain extent. But the other side can be, is there anything new in that? Vivek ji, is Reliance Jio coming up with anything new of its own? Right? Absolutely. Most of the ideas are copycat ideas. So again, there would always be two sides to it. Right? So as an investor, we have to subscribe to one of those. Again, we have to listen to both the sides and then come to a conclusion. I hope everyone is getting it. Ashuji, absolutely. At the present moment, it would be looking very heavy, right? But believe me, I am trying to explain the concepts. That is why I am going into detail, right? Later on, I will summarize and try to provide you resources where you can get more shortcuts. I hope, Ashuji, you are with me. Right? So, everyone, with respect to qualitative analysis, 3 M's are critical: business model, economic mode, management. I hope everyone is clear with all three. Right. So, friends, please provide me feedback. I hope everyone is enjoying the discussion. Everyone, right? And I want more of you to contribute, right? Because all of you come from different backgrounds, from different fields, right? So it would really enrich the discussion. So I would encourage all of you to please contribute with your inputs. Pradeep, in fundamental analysis, at times it does happen, right? So we all have to maintain patience, but I would try to stick to the core as much as possible. Right, everyone? So let us take a break of 10 minutes and post that we would resume. Right, everyone? Right. Right. So friends, before moving forward, a small input from my side. So, Pradeep ji, Kola ji, Shiva ji, please try to understand with respect to fundamental analysis, right? Never be in a hurry to arrive at an investment idea. I repeat, never be in a hurry to arrive at an investment idea, right? Your approach should always be towards reading, learning across economy, industry, and companies. Right? Why? Because you are into investing in companies for longer time period. Right? So there is no hurry at arriving at an idea. We can take our time, but once we decide into one idea, we have to stick by it up to certain time. Right? So I want all of you to have that mindset. I hope everyone is getting my point. Right? Please don't be in a hurry to arrive at an investment idea. Right? Develop interest towards learning, economy, industry, company, right? Then a lot of mental models we all develop, and over a period of time, believe me, conviction on investments would come on your own, right? But if you would be in a hurry, you would always try to find shortcuts early on, which is not advisable. Perfect, Pradeep ji. No, please don't be sorry. There's nothing like that. What I am trying to say, na, at times with respect to fundamental analysis, things sound or feel very broad, right? So we all, in fact, I at the beginning used to be really overawed. It does happens, right? But I am requesting all of you to please develop that mindset. That's my sincere request. Okay? Shivaji, Pradeep ji, Kola ji, I hope everyone is with me. Right? Raminder ji, I hope you are there. Raminder ji. Right. So, time period which I would refer to is that in the beginning, right, at least 3 to 6 months you should give towards learning and understanding, right? That will help you develop the right mentality for longer time period. Raminder ji, I hope you are with me. Right? Great. Now, friends, just see what Warren Buffett has to say about qualitative analysis. Now, friends, he says he primarily belongs to the quantitative school, but his best of ideas have always been where his qualitative insight has been high probability. Friends, with respect to number crunching, there can always be lot of parameters set, right? But with respect to management, business model, economic mode, there would always be lot of subjectivity and individual's discretion. Right or not, everyone? Right? So absolutely, Chandraji, both sides are important. But if you are really positive and your stronghold is qualitative part, believe me, it would pay you in good stead over longer time periods. Right? So on that note, let us see what is the steps or what are the steps involved in qualitative analysis. So for qualitative analysis, first of all, you need to look at what are the growth drivers. That is, what are the factors which will drive future growth of the company. So, certain factors would be internal in nature, which would lie within the company. So, let us first look at internal growth drivers. So, first is technological advancement. So, how many of you have taken a loan from Bajaj Finance? Everyone? Right? So, how much time they take to process the loan? Or in fact, if you have heard how much time they take? Quickly, right? So, there is a study I would like to share with all of you. Normally, most of us make our consumer discretionary purchases during festive times or not? Everyone, right? So once we visit the stores, there is rush or not? Everyone. So during those rush times, which finance providers we would prefer? Finance providers who will have quick turnaround time or not? Everyone, right? Because during such time, people are ready to pay a bit higher. But during those times, people value their money, right? So even though other finance providers are there, but the technological prowess which Bajaj Finance has, the kind of reach which Bajaj Finance has, it is a huge growth driver for the company. I hope everyone is following it. Right? So, someday I heard or saw a hoarding which said, phone pay loan, loan pay phone. Anyone has heard about it? I repeat, loan pay phone, phone pay loan. Right? So, what does it stress upon? First of all, financing for consumer discretionary products. Secondly, ease of financing. Spot on, Shriramji. Absolutely. It gives importance to time of the consumer. Absolutely. Perfect. So, that can be a huge growth driver, especially in a country like India, which has huge population size, demographics are in place. So companies who will develop the right business models, they would be able to harness the same. Then comes capacity addition. So take the example of cement. Now, whenever big infrastructure projects comes in specific area, or at times once government really incentivizes home buying, demand will pick up in a short period or not? Everyone, right? So during that time, will it be easy for cement players to set up capacity over short periods? Right? So people who have built in capacities already, they will hedge or not in servicing incremental demand. I hope I am making sense. Everyone getting it? Then comes new products. So, in which year iPhone was launched? So, Dollar G, what I am referring to is, especially in manufacturing companies, what happens that to increase your manufacturing capacity, it takes time. Dollar G, Neha Ji, right? Because you can't install a capacity over short periods of time. It's a time taking process. So companies who have capacities with them, once demand revives, they would be the first beneficiaries or not. Dollar Ji, Neha Ji, right? Then let's talk about new products. So, who will tell me in which year iPhone was launched? 2007 or around. Absolutely, Yusufji. So, friends, till that time period, Apple was not at all into mobile phones. But since 2007, a new product category has contributed big time in the revenues or not. Product line can be a huge growth driver for the company. Just see, Reliance, which was primarily oil and petrochemical company, how retail and telecom as a product line is adding to the revenue part. I hope everyone is getting it. Absolutely. Diversification. Data is the new oil. Perfectly right, Yusufji. Then new geographies. So you would look for always IT and pharma companies. they are always looking out for new geographies, right? So Indian IT and pharma companies are primarily export oriented, right? So most of the companies cater majority of their business to US, right? But they're always on the lookout to diversify across Europe, right? Because that will reduce concentration risk and it would also add to the revenue part. I hope everyone is getting it. Then mergers, acquisitions, alliances, right? So just see what Facebook and Google, not only they have invested in Reliance Jio, they have also done some sort of partnership for developing new products. So it would act as a growth driver or not, right? At times, lot of acquisitions, mergers fail also. Idea Vodafone, then Tata Chorus deal, then Tata Motors JLR, right? That does not mean all the mergers, acquisitions, alliances would succeed. Always, whenever you are looking at it, you need to see whether, first of all, it will bring in cost optimization benefits or not. Secondly, whether it will bring synergy benefits or not, right? Then only mergers, acquisition, and alliances would succeed. I hope everyone is getting it. Pradeep ji, I hope you are with me. Right. So, Pradeep ji, if you talk about acquisitions, so Tata acquired JLR, Tata acquired Chorus, right? Have they succeeded? Then, at the same time, just see Facebook's acquisition of Instagram, Facebook acquisition of WhatsApp, Google's acquisition of YouTube, right? So there would always be certain success stories, certain failure stories. The key is whether a acquisition would bring synergy benefits and cost optimization benefits or not. Google acquisition of Page, okay. I hope everyone is getting it. Then distribution, marketing spend. Whenever you are studying consumer facing businesses, right? Be it auto vehicles, be it FMCG companies, distribution and marketing play a huge role, right? Because these companies have to be in the eye of the consumer, right or not? Right? So be an Aisha, be an HUL, they have to be in the eye of the consumer. How distribution acts as a growth driver, I would give you all an example. So during the lockdown, how many of you have used Savlon surface disinfectant? I repeat, how many of you have used Savlon surface disinfectant? Many, in my view, right? It's a ITC product, right? As a product, is it a very complicated product? You might have used Dabur, perfectly fine. It's not a very complicated product to build, right? But which companies would be able to leverage on such opportunities which have distribution in place and which have brand image in place? I hope everyone is following the pointers. Product and distribution, perfect Manish ji. Right? Then about R&D, whenever you are looking at technology companies and pharma businesses, research and development plays a huge role. Absolutely. Right? Bigger brands would be shocked, right? Because demand is such high, right? We are ready to pay premium prices only if we trust the brands, especially anything related with our health. I hope so. Vaccine comes soon, Chandraji. Then new business verticals. So friends, how many of you have heard about AWS? Anyone? AWS? Right, Amazon Web Services, right? So it is cloud business of Amazon, right? Probably everyone knows that Amazon is only a e-commerce company, right? But you all would be surprised to know that one of the major revenue and profit sources for Amazon is AWS, right? So all the people from IT background would concur with my view, right? So many a time, a entirely new business vertical can act as a huge growth driver. Let's see what Reliance is doing via retail and telecom. Entirely new business verticals are in place for future growth. I hope everyone is following the internal growth drivers, absolutely diversification and looking at the future. Geo is doing same as Amazon up to certain extent, absolutely. Then let us discuss certain external growth drivers, right? Removal of trade barriers. So, how many of you know at times with respect to export of rice, trade barriers are imposed, right? So if our domestic production is not good, government puts trade barriers or export barriers. So whenever trade barriers would be removed, it would benefit certain set of companies or not, right? So let us take the recent example, right? If say Indo-China issue rises, right? So a lot of companies which are importing raw materials from China, right? It would be difficult for them or not if these trade barriers are put in place, right? Why? Because their input cost would go up, right? Because newer sources can be obtained, but over short periods of time, it would result in higher costing. I hope everyone is getting it, right? If infrastructure, that is roads, rails, ports, are evolved in our country, right, Shuklaji, then would movement of goods and services would be facilitated or not? If better infrastructure is there, movement of goods and services would be more efficient or not? So it will drive growth for whole host of companies or not? It will result in lesser transportation cost or not? Then change in government policies. So few quarters back, corporate tax rate was reduced maximum up to 25%. So it's a growth driver or not? Everyone. Then shift in demographics. So friends, India primarily is considered to be a youthful country, right or not? So, as people in India get more educated, as their average income goes up, right? All the products which pertain to middle age group or youth group, they would get a leg up or not. I would give you a small example. Because of this COVID-19, haven't e-commerce players benefited because of Indian demographics? Right? Because for youth, it was much more easier to adapt. Right? We all would have ordered vegetables, groceries online. Right? Earlier, we used to purchase by going to the stores. So, because of these demographics and external COVID-19 crisis, it has acted as a growth driver or not? Digital payment, absolutely. Very good insight, Puneet ji. Right? We all are using GPays and Paytms of the world. Everyone getting it? UPI apps, absolutely. Then shift in climate change, online banking, right? So, what kind of companies will climate change benefit? Come on, friends, give me replies. So, ACs, very good, Vivek ji, coolers, ACs, up to certain extent, agriculture, absolutely, Pradeep ji, perfect, perfect. Right? So, if monsoons are not very consistent, right? So artificial irrigation will get a leg up or not? Everyone, right? So good point, Pradeep ji. Absolutely, agriculture would also benefit. Then high disposable income. So friends, there is a study. Currently, Indian per capita income annually revolves around say $2,000 or so. Now, over a period of time, this annual income per capita goes above $3,500, you would see exponential growth in lot of consumer discretionary product categories. I repeat, currently India's per capita income hovers around $2,000 per annum. It is estimated as and when over a period of time, as it crosses $3,500 or so, many consumer discretionary product categories will see exponential growth. I hope everyone knows the reason behind the same. Right? Because if average income would go up, more and more people will buy more and more of ACs, cars, or not. Right? Then lifestyle diseases like diabetes, blood pressure, right? They would drive growth for pharmaceutical companies, hospitality industry, diagnostic industry, easy credit, absolutely. It's a huge growth driver. Perfect, Puneet ji. I hope everyone is following insurance, absolutely. So you would see in various parts of the country, special economic zones are established. Right, Arjunji? Now, whenever you try to purchase a product, it gives you an option to purchase via credit card or not. Arjunji, right? So, we are inclined to make more purchases on credit card or on debit card. Patelji, on credit card or not? So, easy availability of credit will drive growth or not? I hope it is making sense, everyone. Right? Then, so in various parts of the country, special economic zones, SEZs have been established, right? To drive export-oriented businesses. It can be pharma, it can be IT, where certain tax incentives and other incentives are provided, right? To drive growth. Then, current tourism and travel is struggling, but if the government promotes and incentivizes in normal times, these sectors would also thrive. Absolutely, Patelji, they have certain subsidies, right? Then outsourcing. So, if Indian government is able to negotiate better with US with respect to outsourcing terms, many Indian IT and pharma companies would benefit or not? Everyone. So, lot of diplomatic negotiations also act as growth driver for individual businesses. Up to some extent, Ashuji, absolutely. Till when vaccine is in place, we won't be really stepping out, especially for tourism. Right? So till that time, absolutely, tourism and hotel industry will face headwind. Absolutely. I hope everyone has got the external growth drivers. Right? So we discussed two types of growth drivers. First, internal, which would come from within the company. Second, external, which would come from outside the company. Right? So these were all about positives. Now, let us look at certain negatives or risk involved qualitatively. Right? So in every business, at every point in time, there would be certain risk and challenges, right? Because like individuals, businesses don't run in vacuum, right? They run in dynamic environment. So they would always face certain challenges. Let's look at them. Now, friends, always whenever we would discuss concerns, those would be coming from within the company, right? So, flip side of competitive advantage. So, for building any competitive advantage, costs are involved or not? Everyone, right? So, every business has to do cost benefit analysis. So, for maintaining that competitive advantage, what kind of costs are involved and over a period of time, what kind of benefits they are expecting. They have to look at those or not. Or should they blindly keep on investing big sums of money for maintaining competitive advantage? They should always and they will always look at the cost benefit analysis over longer periods of time. I hope everyone is getting it. Then factors which are inherent to the company. So within the company, especially in manufacturing plants, there can be strikes, right? At times there are issues and quarrels between the top management people. It would impact the prospects of the company or not? Then areas which need improvement. So in budget airlines, which is the most cost efficient player? Transport strike, absolutely. But that would be more of a external in nature. Indigo, absolutely. Right. So other players which are into budget segment, right? They always have to look at how to control cost. and manage it, right? Because at the end of the day, India is a price conscious market or not. Whenever we are booking tickets, we are always inclined towards booking the lowest cost ticket or not? Or do we pay a lot of importance to the operator? Right? The two main considerations are price and time duration. I hope everyone is getting it. Price and time, absolutely. Then, lack of strong brand name. Friends, all the consumer facing products, especially FMCG products, in your mind, are these very complicated products? Right? I don't think so. Manufacturing soaps is very complicated, right? But still, newer players find it very difficult, right? Because developing a brand is very difficult, right? So you would see, especially recent times, with respect to sanitizers, with respect to disinfectants, we have always relied on the players which have established brands, right? So a newer player who might be coming up with a better product, it's difficult to win the trust of consumer, right or not? Right? Cost structure, distribution channel, we have already discussed. Lack of technological edge. So, earlier, I hope all of us would have used Just Dial few years back, right? Today, how many of us use Just Dial? Very few, right? Because Google gives all those informations free of cost. Right? At times, players who have established businesses are not able to compete technologically with the bigger players. I hope everyone is getting it. Right? So, these were about concerns. Absolutely, Yusufji. Now, there can be certain set of challenges also, right? So, all these challenges would always come from external environment, right? No better example than COVID-19, right? How COVID-19, which is an external factor, has completely destroyed travel, tourism, hospitality, right? Could management of these businesses done anything about it? Right? Their hands are constrained. Right? At times, certain businesses do face existential crisis because of these external challenges. I hope everyone is getting it. Absolutely, very good example, Yusuf ji. Malls, cinemas, gyms, right? So, PVRs, which was a darling stock, right? Because of COVID-19, consumer behavior is expected to change or not till things normalize. So, till that time, it is curtains for these businesses or not, right? And at the same time, it is benefiting OTT players, right? So, a external factor which is bane for some businesses can be boon for other set of businesses. Some changes might become permanent. Absolutely, Sriramji. I hope everyone is getting it right. Volatile currency. Always remember, depreciating currency will benefit exporters and impact importers negatively. I hope everyone is getting it. Change in government regulation, right? Always, whenever you are looking at sin stocks, be it tobacco, be it liquor, right? Government regulation is round the corner or not, especially in a socialist driven economy like India. So, in these set of businesses, these external challenges would be round the corner. So, if I would have to summarize what we all study today we tried to understand company analysis on qualitative perspective, right? Under qualitative analysis, we studied firstly three M's, which were economic mode, business model, and management. Then we studied growth drivers for the company, which can be internal and external. And finally, we looked at risk and challenges which individual companies might be facing. Again, they can be internal and external. So I hope everyone got some insights today. All of you, Raminder ji, Pradeep ji, Shiva ji, I hope everyone is getting along with me. Right, Pradeep ji, please have some patience for coming sessions. Right, currently we are discussing concepts. Right, so from tomorrow I would be discussing the quantitative aspect. Right, so for the next three sessions we would be discussing quantitative aspects. Post